The great chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with quiet conversation. 12 different alien species sat in a perfect circle, their strange voices mixing together like a strange song. The air felt heavy with importance and old traditions. At the center of this massive room stood Jake Morrison, a human with tired eyes and dirty clothes from weeks in space. Jake looked around at the faces staring at him. Some had too many eyes, others had skin like metal, and a few breathed gas instead of air. All of them looked at him like he was something dirty they found on their shoes. He straightened his back and tried to look brave, but his hands shook a little. The Zephyrian magistrate rose from his seat. He was tall and thin like a stick, with blue skin that seemed to glow. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind through caves. "Human Jake Morrison, you stand accused of breaking the Forbidden Zones Treaty. You took your ship into the Veil Nebula without permission. This is a serious crime." Jake wanted to shout at them, but he bit his tongue. His sister Lisa had been missing for 3 months. Her research ship had vanished near that nebula, and nobody seemed to care except him. The council had told him to wait, to let their people handle it, to trust their slow and careful ways. But Jake could not wait anymore. "I was looking for my sister," Jake said, his voice steady but angry. "She is lost out there, and you people do nothing." A creature that looked like a walking tree rustled its leaves. The human shows typical emotional responses. They cannot control their feelings like civilized beings. Other council members nodded their heads. The Altarian representative, a being made of what looked like living crystal, spoke next. "Humans are too young to understand galactic law. They think with their hearts instead of their minds. This is why they are dangerous." Jake felt anger building in his chest like a fire. These aliens talked about his sister like she was just a number in their files. They spoke about humans like they were stupid children who needed to be watched. He had spent weeks searching through empty space, hoping to find any sign that Lisa was still alive. All he found was silence. "You call us dangerous?" Jake's voice got louder. "We are dangerous because we care about each other? Because we do not give up when someone we love is in trouble?" The magistrate raised one long finger. "You are dangerous because you do not think before you act. Your ship could have disturbed things in that nebula that should stay hidden. There are reasons those zones are forbidden." "What reasons?" Jake shouted. "Nobody tells us anything. You make rules and expect us to follow them, but you never explain why. My sister was a scientist. She was careful. She would not have gone into that nebula unless something was very wrong." The council members looked at each other with their strange eyes. Jake could tell they were hiding something important. The way they moved, the way they avoided his questions. It all felt wrong. A new voice spoke from the shadows at the edge of the chamber. It belonged to Thrix, an Altarian who looked older than the others. His crystal body had cracks that glowed with soft light. The human asks questions that are too dangerous to answer. This made Jake even more angry. Dangerous questions? Like asking why my sister disappeared? Like asking why you will not help me find her? What are you so afraid of? The magistrate's blue skin got darker. "We are afraid of nothing. We are wise beings who understand things you cannot. Humans are too emotional, too unpredictable. You make choices based on feelings instead of logic." Jake felt something break inside him. All the worry about Lisa, all the fear that she might be dead, all the anger at these cold aliens who would not help him. It all came out at once. He threw back his head and screamed. It was not just a yell of anger. It was the sound of a brother who might never see his sister again. It was the cry of someone who felt completely alone in a galaxy full of strangers. It was raw and wild and full of pain that went deeper than words could reach. The sound filled the great chamber and seemed to make the walls shake. Every alien in the room stopped talking and stared at Jake with wide eyes. They had never heard anything like this before. Most of them lived quiet, controlled lives where loud emotions were considered rude or primitive. But something else happened when Jake screamed. The ancient symbols carved into the chamber walls began to glow with soft blue light. At first, just a few symbols near Jake lit up. Then more and more started glowing until the whole room was filled with strange light. The council members jumped up from their seats looking scared for the first time since Jake had known them. The magistrate's blue skin turned almost white. "This should not be possible," he whispered. The floor under their feet started to shake. It was gentle at first, like a small earthquake, but it got stronger. Somewhere deep in the station, alarms began to ring. Red lights flashed in the hallways outside the chamber. Jake stopped screaming and looked around in surprise. He had no idea what was happening. The glowing symbols on the walls were beautiful but frightening. They seemed to be watching him, responding to his voice somehow. Thrix moved closer to the center of the room, his crystal body making soft, ringing sounds as he walked. "The seals," he said quietly. "Something is happening to the seals." "What seals?" Jake asked, but nobody answered him. Security guards rushed into the chamber. They were big, strong aliens with thick armor and energy weapons. Their leader spoke quickly into a communication device. "We have a situation in the archives. The precursor vault is showing energy readings." The magistrate looked at Jake with new fear in his many eyes. "What have you done, human?" Jake spread his hands, confused and still angry. "I do not know what you are talking about. I just want to find my sister." But even as he said it, Jake could feel that something had changed. The air in the room felt different, like it was full of electricity before a storm. The glowing symbols seemed to be singing a song too quiet to hear, but loud enough to feel in his bones. Deep in the station's restricted levels, in a place that had been locked away for thousands of years, something ancient was waking up, and it was waking up because it had heard a human scream. Dr. Elena Martinez ran through the halls of Station Kepler as fast as her legs could carry her. The alarms were so loud she could barely think. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere, making the metal walls look like they were covered in blood. She had been working in her lab when the station started shaking, and now something impossible was happening in the archives. Elena was the chief xenoarchaeologist on the station. Her job was to study the old things left behind by ancient alien races. She knew every artifact and every sealed room in the restricted levels, but she had never seen energy readings like the ones her computer was showing her now. Behind her, Security Chief Carl Thompson and his team tried to keep up. Carl was a big man with gray hair who had spent 20 years keeping the station safe. He carried his energy rifle ready, but Elena could tell he was scared. In all his years of service, nothing like this had ever happened. "Dr. Martinez," Carl called out between heavy breaths. "What exactly are we dealing with down there?" Elena did not slow down. "I do not know yet, but the energy coming from the precursor vault is off the charts. Whatever is in there has been sleeping for 10,000 years, and now it is waking up." They reached the heavy doors that led to the restricted archives. The metal was so thick it could stop a bomb, but now it was glowing with the same blue light they had seen in the council chamber. Strange symbols appeared and disappeared on the surface like words written in water. Carl's team set up a security perimeter, while Elena worked at the control panel. Her hands shook as she entered her access codes. The door slowly opened with a sound like grinding stone, and warm air flowed out that smelled of old metal and something else, something alive. Meanwhile, on the upper levels, Jake Morrison sat in a small holding cell. The guards had not arrested him exactly, but they would not let him leave either. He stared at the walls and worried about what was happening. Every few minutes, the station would shake again, and he could hear people running in the hallways outside. The cell door opened, and Thrix walked in. The old Altarian's crystal body caught the light from the ceiling and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. His face was hard to read, but Jake thought he looked worried. "Human Jake Morrison," Thrix said in his strange, musical voice. "We need to talk." Jake stood up from his narrow bed. "Are you finally going to tell me what is going on? Why did the wall start glowing when I shouted?" Thrix sat down on the other bed, which creaked under his crystal weight. "Your scream did something we hoped would never happen. You woke something up that was supposed to stay asleep forever." "I do not understand," Jake said. "What kind of something?" The old alien was quiet for a moment. "Long ago, before any of our species reached the stars, there was another race. We call them the precursors. They were older and more powerful than anything we can imagine. But they disappeared 10,000 years ago, leaving only ruins and warnings." Jake felt a chill run down his back. "Warnings about what?" "About the things they left behind. The precursors built guardians and sealed them away. They left messages saying these guardians should only be awakened if a great danger returned to the galaxy. We have spent thousands of years making sure those seals stayed closed. But I am just one human," Jake said. "How could my voice wake up something that powerful?" Thrix looked at him with eyes like pieces of colored glass. "Because you are human, Jake Morrison. Your species is different from ours in ways we are just starting to understand." Down in the archives, Elena and her team had reached the central vault. It was a huge room with walls covered in more of the glowing symbols. In the center stood a crystal structure as tall as a building, and inside it something was moving. The crystal was cracking, Lines of light ran through it like lightning, and with each crack, more energy poured out. Helena's instruments were going crazy, showing readings that should not be possible. "Chief Thompson," she called out. "You need to see this." Carl joined her at the main scanner. "What am I looking at, Doc?" "Life signs," Elena said, her voice full of wonder and fear. "Whatever's in that crystal, it is alive. And it has been alive this whole time, just sleeping." As they watched, the cracks in the crystal got bigger. The thing inside was waking up, and Elena could feel its attention like a weight pressing down on her mind. It knew they were there. It was studying them just as much as they were studying it. Dr. Martinez, one of her assistants, called out, "I am getting reports from all over the galaxy. Precursor sites on Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies are all showing the same energy spikes. Whatever is happening here, it is happening everywhere." Elena felt her heart race. "How many sites?" "All of them," the assistant said. "Every precursor ruin we know about is lighting up like a Christmas tree. And there are new ones appearing that we never found before." Back in the holding cell, Thrix continued his explanation. The precursors left genetic markers in one young species before they disappeared. They were looking for a race that could serve as a key to wake their guardians if the need ever arose. "Let me guess," Jake said. "That species was humanity." "Yes, your emotional patterns, your brain structure, even the way you process trauma and loss. It all matches what the precursors were looking for. They needed beings who could feel deeply, who would fight against impossible odds, who would never give up even when everything seemed hopeless." Jake thought about his sister Lisa. He thought about how he had searched for her even when everyone told him to stop. He thought about the anger and pain that had made him scream in the council chamber. "So when I screamed about my sister, you activated a key that has been sleeping in human DNA for 10,000 years, Thrix finished. "And now the Guardians are waking up." The station shook again, harder this time. Through the walls they could hear the sound of breaking crystal. Whatever was in the vault was almost free. Elena watched as the last cracks spread through the crystal prison. Light poured out so bright she had to cover her eyes. The thing inside stretched and moved, testing limbs that had not been used for thousands of years. When the light faded, Elena saw something impossible. It was shaped like a person but made of pure energy. Its face was kind but ancient, and its eyes held the wisdom of ages. When it spoke, the voice came from inside her head rather than through her ears. "I am Keeper Valthon," it said, "and I have been waiting for the inheritors to call." The being looked around the room, taking in the scared faces of Elena's team. "How long has it been since the precursors departed?" 10,000 years, Elena managed to say. Valthon nodded sadly. "Then we are almost out of time. The Devourers are returning, and only the Inheritor species can stop them now." "The Inheritor species?" Carl asked. The ancient guardian turned its glowing eyes toward the upper levels of the station. "The humans. The ones the precursors chose to carry their legacy. The ones whose emotional resonance can power the weapons we left behind." Elena felt the weight of this revelation. Humanity was not just another young species stumbling around the galaxy. They were the key to something much bigger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. And somewhere in the holding cell above, Jake Morrison was about to learn that his search for his sister was about to become a fight for the survival of everything. The ancient being called Keeper Valthon floated in the center of the vault like a living star. Its body was made of pure energy that shifted and moved like water, but its face was clear and wise. When it looked at the people around it, Elena felt like it could see straight into her soul. "Bring me the one who called," Valthon said, its voice echoing in everyone's mind. "Bring me Jake Morrison." Elena looked at Carl Thompson, who was already speaking into his communication device. Within minutes, security guards brought Jake down to the archives. When he walked into the vault and saw the glowing guardian, his eyes went wide with surprise. Valthon turned to face Jake, and its expression became gentle. "You carry the pain of loss, young inheritor. I can feel it burning in your mind like a flame." Jake found his voice. "Are you talking about my sister, Lisa?" "I speak of all the losses your species has endured," the Guardian replied. "Every war, every death, every moment of grief has shaped your people into what you needed to become. The precursors saw this potential in your ancestors millions of years ago." The being began to glow brighter, and suddenly everyone in the room could see images forming in the air around them. They saw Earth as it was long ago, when early humans first learned to use tools. They saw the precursors, tall and graceful beings of light watching from hidden places. My creators studied many young species across the galaxy, Valthon explained. They looked for those who could grow strong through struggle, who would never surrender even when facing the impossible. Most species became peaceful as they advanced, which made them weak against certain threats. What threats? Elena asked. The images changed, showing something that made everyone step back in fear. Dark shapes moved through space, but they were not ships or creatures. They were holes in reality itself, places where nothing could exist. Where they passed, stars went out and worlds simply disappeared. The Devourers, Valthon said, its voice full of old sadness. They come from outside our reality, from a place where order and chaos do not exist. They feed on the concepts that hold our universe together: time, space, matter, energy. They consume the very idea of existence itself. Jake felt sick looking at the images. How do you fight something like that? You cannot fight them with weapons or technology, the Guardian replied. The Devourers eat those things for breakfast. The only defense is something they cannot consume, the creative force that comes from beings who refuse to give up hope. Dr. Elena Martinez was recording everything on her scanner. So the precursors chose humanity because we are stubborn? Valthon almost seemed to smile. You are much more than stubborn. Your species creates beauty in the face of ugliness, finds hope in despair, and keeps fighting even when victory seems impossible. This creative force is like poison to the Devourers. Communications Officer Danny Park rushed into the vault carrying a portable computer. Dr. Martinez, we are getting reports from everywhere. Every human colony in the galaxy is reporting strange things happening. Elena looked at the screen. Messages were coming in from Earth, Mars, the outer settlements, and even the small research stations. Human scientists were saying that ancient artifacts were turning on by themselves. People near these artifacts were experiencing visions and enhanced abilities. Show me, Elena said. Danny pulled up a video message from Captain Ben Rogers of the exploration ship New Horizon. The captain looked excited and scared at the same time. We found a precursor site on Kepler 442b. When our engineer Lucy Hamilton touched one of the devices, it activated and started talking to her. She says she can understand how it works just by looking at it. Another message came from Dr. Rachel Stone on Mars base. The precursor ruins in Olympus Mons are fully active now. When our people get close to the technology, they can interface with it directly. It is like the machines recognize something in human brain patterns. Jake watched the reports with growing amazement. This is happening because of what I did in the council chamber? Your emotional call was the key that unlocked what was always inside your people, Valthon explained. Every human carries the genetic markers the precursors left behind. You are all connected to each other and to the technology we left for you. Elena felt a chill. How many people are we talking about? Danny checked his computer. All human colonies are reporting the same thing. That is about 12 billion people spread across 47 worlds and stations. The implications hit Elena like a hammer. 12 billion humans suddenly connected to ancient alien technology that responded to emotion and creativity. The galaxy was about to change in ways nobody could predict. Valthon sensed her worry. Do not fear this change. Your species will need every advantage we can give you. The Devourers are already returning. Our sensors beyond the galactic rim detected their approach 3 solar cycles ago. Carl Thompson, who had been quietly listening to everything, finally spoke up. How long do we have? By your measurements, perhaps one of your years before they reach the outer systems. Less time than that before they start affecting reality in ways you will notice. Elena's computer started beeping urgently. She looked at the screen and felt her heart stop. I am getting reports from the deep space monitoring stations. Something is wrong with the sensors near the galactic edge. They are reading areas of space where nothing exists. It has begun, Valthon said quietly. The Devourers send scouts ahead of their main force. These scouts erase small areas of reality to test the local defenses. Jake thought about his sister Lisa again. My sister was doing research near the Veil Nebula. Could the Devourers have taken her? The Guardian was quiet for a moment, and Jake could feel it thinking. The nebula sits near one of the old barrier zones. If your sister encountered a Devourer scout, she may have been displaced rather than destroyed. There is hope, but first we must prepare your species for what is coming. Danny's computer chimed with another urgent message. This one was from Professor Tony Andrews on Earth. The precursor ruins in Antarctica are doing something incredible. Dr. Amy Foster says that humans working near them are developing enhanced cognitive abilities. People are solving problems they should not be able to understand, and making intuitive leaps that should be impossible. Elena looked around the vault at all the glowing symbols on the walls. How many of these sites are there? Thousands, Velthon replied. Hidden beneath your cities, buried in your oceans, scattered across every world where humans have settled. The precursors wanted to make sure the inheritor species would have access to their legacy, no matter where they spread. Jake felt overwhelmed by the size of what was happening. So humans are supposed to save the galaxy? Not save, the Guardian corrected. Transform. The old ways of thinking about reality will not work against the Devourers. Your species must evolve, must become something new that can exist in both order and chaos. Only then can you stand against beings that devour existence itself. Carl's security team reported that the council members were demanding answers. The alien leaders were panicking as reports came in of human colonies developing impossible abilities. Some species were calling for immediate action to contain the situation. Let them worry, Elena said, surprising herself with her boldness. For the first time since humans joined the galactic community, we are not the ones who need protection. Velthon's energy form pulsed with what might have been approval. Wisdom, Dr. Martinez. Your species has spent too long trying to fit into a galaxy that did not understand you. Now the galaxy will need to adapt to what humanity is becoming. Jake looked at the ancient guardian with new determination. What do we need to do first? Learn, Velthon replied. The weapon systems and defenses we left behind require not just human operation, but human understanding. You must become one with the technology. Let it become part of who you are. And you must do it quickly because the Devourers grow stronger with each reality they consume. The Guardian turned to face the entire group. Contact every human settlement. Tell them what is coming. Those who are willing must come to the ancient sites and begin their transformation. The galaxy's survival depends on how quickly your species can evolve. Elena felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Humanity was about to become something unprecedented in galactic history. The question was whether they would become it fast enough to matter. Captain Ben Rogers stood on the bridge of his exploration ship New Horizon and watched his crew do impossible things. Engineer Lucy Hamilton had her hands pressed against a precursor control panel that looked like flowing water made of metal. Her eyes were closed, but she was piloting the ship through an asteroid field at speeds that should have been suicide. Lucy, how are you doing that? Ben asked. Lucy opened her eyes and smiled, but kept her hands on the strange controls. I can feel the ship like it is part of my body. The precursor technology does not just respond to commands. It responds to intentions and emotions. When I want to avoid that asteroid, the ship already knows and moves before I even think about it. On the main screen, they could see other human ships doing similar things. Pilots were navigating by pure instinct. Engineers were fixing problems by touching broken systems and somehow knowing what was wrong. And scientists were making discoveries that should have taken years of research. Back on Mars base, Dr. Rachel Stone was having her own impossible experiences. She stood in the precursor chamber deep beneath Olympus Mons, surrounded by technology that hummed with life. When she touched the walls, information flowed directly into her mind. Star charts, weapon designs, and knowledge about the structure of reality itself. Dr. Stone, her assistant called out. We are getting reports from the mining colonies. People working near precursor sites are developing shared consciousness. They can communicate with each other across vast distances without any technology. Rachel pulled her hands away from the wall, but the information kept flowing. It is not shared consciousness exactly. It is more like we are all becoming part of something larger, individual humans connected into a network that spans the galaxy. On Earth, Professor Tony Andrews was leading excavation teams in Antarctica. The ice above the ancient ruins had melted away by itself when the sites activated, revealing structures that seemed to change shape when nobody was looking directly at them. Dr. Amy Foster worked alongside him, studying the effects on human volunteers. Tony, you need to see this, Amy called out from her medical station. The brain scans from people who have interfaced with the technology show impossible neural activity. They are using parts of their minds that normal humans cannot access. Tony looked at the scans and shook his head in wonder. Their intelligence levels are off the charts, but more than that, they are thinking in ways we do not have words for. Multidimensional logic, probability mathematics, and something the computer calls creative physics. A young volunteer named Sam Carter walked over to them. Yesterday, he had been a simple shuttle pilot. Today, he looked at the world with eyes that seemed to see beyond normal vision. "Professor Andrews," Sam said, "I know this sounds crazy, but I think I understand how to travel faster than light without using hyperspace. The precursor technology does not move through space. It convinces space to move around it." Amy checked her instruments again. "Sam, your brain activity is unlike anything we have ever recorded. How do you feel?" Sam considered the question carefully. "I feel like I have been asleep my whole life and just woke up. Like I can finally see the universe the way it really is instead of the simplified version my old brain could handle." Meanwhile, Station Kepler had become the center of a growing crisis. The Galactic Council was meeting in emergency session as reports poured in from across human space. Alien leaders who had always seen humans as primitive and chaotic were now watching them develop abilities that defied known science. Jake Morrison sat with Keeper Velthon in the archives, serving as a translator between the ancient Guardian and the human network that was forming across the galaxy. Through Jake, Velthon could communicate with humans on distant worlds, sharing knowledge and coordinating their rapid transformation. "The Altarians are demanding that we shut down all precursor sites," Jake told the Guardian. "They say humanity is becoming too dangerous to remain in the galactic community." Velthon's energy form pulsed with what looked like amusement. "Let them try to shut down a site. The technology only responds to human interaction now. Without your species, the weapons we left behind are just pretty decorations." Dr. Elena Martinez was monitoring everything from her command center. Screens showed human settlements across the galaxy, where people were doing things that should have been impossible. On New Sydney, a mining engineer named Mike Taylor had jury-rigged a precursor power core to provide unlimited energy for the entire colony. On Titan Station, Commander Kelly Brooks was coordinating defensive systems using nothing but her intuition and emotional connection to the ancient technology. "Elena," Danny Park called out from his communication station, "we are getting a priority message from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. The Devourer scouts are accelerating their approach." Elena looked at the tactical display. Dark zones were spreading across the outer rim of the galaxy, where the enemy scouts had erased sections of reality. Entire star systems were simply gone, not destroyed but removed from existence itself. "How long do we have?" she asked. "At this rate, maybe 6 months before they reach the inner systems. But Dr. Martinez, there is something else. The areas they have consumed are not staying empty. Something is growing in those spaces." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Growing? What do you mean?" Danny enhanced the sensor readings. "The empty zones are expanding, but not randomly. They are forming patterns like they are building something, a structure made of non-existence itself." In the archives, Velthon sensed the new information through its connection with Jake. The Devourers are establishing a foothold in this reality. Soon they will begin bringing their main forces through the gaps they have created. Jake felt the weight of 12 billion human minds connecting through the precursor network. Each person who interfaced with the ancient technology added their knowledge and creativity to the growing collective. Engineers shared impossible solutions. Scientists developed new theories by pure intuition, and soldiers learned to fight with weapons that responded to courage rather than training. "What exactly are we becoming?" Jake asked. "Something the universe has never seen before," Velthon replied. "Individual consciousness connected but not absorbed. Creative chaos that can exist within universal order. The perfect immune system for a reality under attack." Reports continued streaming in from human colonies. On Europa base, a maintenance worker had figured out how to repair precursor technology by singing to it. On the frontier world of Haven, children were playing games that somehow strengthened the planetary defense systems. On the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, scientists were discovering new laws of physics by asking the universe polite questions. But the most important development was happening on Earth itself. In the ruins beneath major cities around the world, ordinary humans were awakening abilities that connected them directly to the planet's defense network. When they worked together, they could manipulate energy fields that spanned continents. Dr. Amy Foster sent an urgent report from Antarctica. "The volunteers here are telling me they can sense the Devourer scouts even from this distance. They describe it as a feeling of wrongness, like reality is being eaten away at the edges. Elena realized that humanity was developing into something unprecedented, a species-wide early warning system that could detect threats to existence itself. But would it be enough? The answer came sooner than expected. Alarms began ringing throughout Station Kepler as sensors detected massive gravitational distortions at the galaxy's edge. The Devourer scouts were no longer just erasing small areas of space. They were opening doorways for something much larger. Through the human network, every person connected to precursor technology could feel it. A vast hunger approaching that wanted to devour not just matter and energy, but the very concepts that made reality possible. Time, space, causality, existence itself were all on the menu. Jake Morrison stood up as he felt the collective will of his species flowing through him. 12 billion humans connected by ancient alien technology, enhanced beyond normal limitations, and united by the simple human refusal to give up in the face of impossible odds. "Vilethon," he said, "I think it is time to learn how to use those weapons you left behind." The ancient guardian's form blazed brighter. "Indeed, the real war is about to begin, and your species must be ready to fight for the right of reality to continue existing." Elena looked around at her team, all of whom now showed the enhanced awareness that came from interfacing with precursor technology. They were no longer quite human in the old sense, but they were something better. Humanity evolved to meet a threat that normal evolution could never have prepared them for. The question now was whether this transformation had happened fast enough to matter. The Devourer fleet appeared at the edge of the galaxy like a wound in space itself. They were not ships in any normal sense, but massive tiers in reality that moved with purpose and hunger. Where they passed, stars simply stopped existing. Not exploded or collapsed. They were erased from the universe as if they had never been born. Admiral Sarah Price stood on the bridge of the human flagship Defiance, watching her sensors try to make sense of the impossible. The combined fleets of the Galactic Council had assembled to meet this threat, but their weapons passed harmlessly through enemies that existed between the spaces of normal matter. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "the Zephyrian battle group just fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes at the lead Devourer ship." The torpedoes hit, then simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no damage, they just stopped being real. Sarah felt the connection to the human network humming in her mind. Through the precursor technology, she could sense every human in the galaxy, all of them linked by purpose and determination. The aliens had powerful weapons and strong ships, but they fought with logic and strategy. The Devourers consumed logic and strategy for breakfast. On Earth, Jake Morrison stood in the primary control chamber beneath the Antarctic ruins. Around him, hundreds of humans worked at precursor interfaces that looked like sculptures made of living light. Through them, he could feel the entire planet's defense network coming online. "Vilethon," Jake said to the ancient guardian floating beside him. "The council fleets are not even slowing them down." "Of course not," Vilethon replied sadly. "The Devourers do not destroy, they uncreate. They take the concept of resistance and make it never have existed. Only beings who create new concepts faster than they can be consumed have any chance." Dr. Elena Martinez was coordinating from Station Kepler, where the original awakening had begun. Her screen showed the battle across multiple dimensions of space-time. Every weapon the Council forces fired was simply edited out of reality before it could do any damage. "Jake," she called through the network, "we are losing entire fleets. The Altarian heavy cruiser squadron just stopped existing. Not destroyed, erased from history itself. But something strange was happening in the sectors where human ships operated. Engineer Lucy Hamilton on the New Horizon had figured out how to make her ship partially non-existent, slipping between the cracks of reality where the Devourers could not touch them. Pilot Sam Carter was flying impossible patterns that confused the enemy by being in multiple places simultaneously. Commander Kelly Brooks reported from the front lines. "The Devourer scouts cannot seem to target us effectively. When I stop thinking like a tactical officer and start feeling like a human being, they have trouble locking onto our ships." Dr. Rachel Stone, working from the Mars Base Precursor Facility, made a crucial discovery. The enemy is not just consuming matter and energy. They are eating the mathematical relationships that hold reality together. But human consciousness creates new relationships faster than they can be consumed. Jake felt a moment of hope, but Veilthon quickly crushed it. The scouts are merely testing your defenses. The true Devourer fleet carries weapons that can uncreate entire concepts at once. Hope itself, love, determination. They can make it so these things never existed. As if summoned by his words, the main Devourer force emerged from the wounds in space. These were not the small scouts that had been probing galactic defenses. These were vast intelligences of pure entropy, each one capable of erasing the idea of existence from entire solar systems. Admiral Price watched in horror as they approached the inner systems. All human vessels fall back to Earth. If we are going to make our stand, we do it protecting our home. But Jake Morrison had a different idea. Through the human network, he could feel the desperation and fear of his people, but underneath it was something the Devourers had never encountered before, the specifically human ability to find hope in hopeless situations, and to keep fighting even when victory was impossible. Elena, he called through the network. What did Veilthon tell us about the ultimate weapon the precursors left behind? Elena checked her records. A device powered by creative force itself, but it requires a willing sacrifice, someone who understands loss but refuses to surrender to it. Jake closed his eyes and felt the pain of his missing sister Lisa flowing through him. For months he had searched for her, refused to give up, fought against alien bureaucracy and impossible odds. That stubborn human refusal to accept defeat had awakened the ancient guardians in the first place. I know what I have to do, he said quietly. The Devourer main force reached the outer planets and began their terrible work. Jupiter simply stopped existing, along with its moons and everything humanity had built there. Saturn followed, then Uranus and Neptune. The very concepts of those worlds were being eaten away. But as the Devourers approached Earth, they encountered something that confused them. The human defensive network was not trying to destroy them. It was creating new forms of reality faster than they could consume the old ones. Where the enemy erased the concept of matter, humans invented energy-based existence. Where they consumed the idea of time, humans created new temporal relationships. Dr. Amy Foster, working with volunteers in Antarctica, made the crucial breakthrough. The enhanced humans are not just using precursor technology, they are improving it in real time. Human creativity is adding new capabilities that the original builders never imagined. Engineer Mike Taylor reported from Titan Base. The precursor power cores are running at 200% capacity, but instead of overloading, they are evolving. The technology is learning from human consciousness and becoming something new. Jake Morrison stood at the center of the Earth's defense network and felt the weight of 12 billion human minds connected through ancient alien technology. Every person who had interfaced with a precursor device was now part of a vast creative force that spanned the galaxy. Veilthon, he said, how do I activate the ultimate weapon? The ancient guardian's energy form blazed brighter. You already have, Jake Morrison. The weapon is not a device, it is your species itself, connected, enhanced, and united by the one force the Devourers cannot consume. What force is that? The human refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible. The Devourer fleet reached Earth's orbit and began their assault on the planet itself. But instead of reality being erased, something unprecedented happened. Where their uncreation fields touched the human defense network, new forms of existence sprang into being. Not just matter and energy, but entirely new concepts that had never existed before. Through the network, Jake could feel every human on Earth and beyond contributing to this impossible defense. Children imagining new colors that confused the Devourers, artists creating forms of beauty that could not be erased, scientists discovering laws of physics that existed only because humans believed they should. The enemy fell back, confused by prey that became stronger when attacked. They tried to consume the concept of human determination, but found that it regenerated faster than they could eat it. They attempted to erase human hope, but discovered that humans could create new forms of hope even in the face of absolute despair. Jake felt something calling to him from the deepest part of the precursor network. It was the final gift the ancient race had left behind, not a weapon but a choice. He could sacrifice his individual existence to become the permanent focal point for humanity's creative force, ensuring that the galaxy would always have a defense against entropy and despair. He thought about his sister Lisa, still missing somewhere in the vastness of space. He thought about the 12 billion humans who were depending on him. He thought about all the alien species who had dismissed humanity as primitive and chaotic, never understanding that chaos was exactly what the universe needed to survive. "I accept," Jake said quietly. The change began immediately. Jake's individual consciousness spread across the entire human network, becoming the living connection between every precursor device and every human mind. Through him, the enhanced abilities of his species became permanent and self-sustaining. The Devourer fleet found themselves facing an enemy they could not understand. Every attack they made was countered by new forms of reality. Every concept they tried to consume was replaced by 3 more. The humans were not just defending against uncreation, they were actively creating new forms of existence. Admiral Sarah Price, watching from the Defiance, saw the tide of battle turn. "All ships, the enemy is retreating. They are falling back toward the galactic rim." But Jake Morrison, now existing as a distributed consciousness across the human network, knew this was only the beginning. The Devourers would return, and when they did, they would face a galaxy that had learned to defend itself through the power of human creativity and determination. Dr. Elena Martinez coordinated the aftermath from Station Kepler. The Galactic Council, humbled by their rescue at the hands of the species they had always considered too emotional and unpredictable, formally offered humanity full membership with voting rights. But more importantly, the galaxy itself had changed. The human network, now permanently linked through Jake's sacrifice, served as a living immune system against entropy and despair. Wherever the Devourers,